Hey, it's David, and welcome back to another episode of the Reddit Story podcast.
My name is Michael. I am just an office worker, turning 30 this year. I work as a salesperson at a major company on weekdays, and I dedicate my weekend to my passion for cycling. That's my ordinary life. Today is Sunday, and it's a beautiful, warm day. There was no rain forecast, making it a perfect day to go out, so I hopped on my mint green bike and went cycling. Now, where should I go today? There's a restaurant I've been curious about. Maybe I'll head there. After exercising by cycling, I love eating a refreshing meal. The meal seems to taste several times better as it soothes my heated body. I have a gathering with friends from my college days this evening, so I need to be back home by then. The restaurant is just beyond a small hill. I plan to cross the hill, eat, and then cross it again on my way back. By the time I return, it should be just the right time. It happened on my way back, after I had crossed the hill and eaten. While climbing a hill on my bike, I found a man crouching at the side of the road. He looked to be in his 50s, well-dressed. Nearby, his bike lay carelessly toppled over. Seeing him clutching his chest in pain, I realized something was seriously wrong, so I got off my bike and rushed to help him. "Are you okay? Hang in there." Suddenly, my chest started hurting. "I'll call an ambulance right away. Please don't move." Having no medical knowledge, I didn't know the right way to handle this situation. But I knew I had to do something, so I immediately called for an ambulance. Soon, the ambulance arrived, and thanks to the paramedics' swift action, the man's condition seemed to stabilize. Still, just to be safe, he was taken to the hospital. "Thank you so much. You saved my life," he said. "No, don't mention it. I just did what anyone would have done," I replied. He was calm enough to talk by then. I was truly relieved. Who knows what might have happened if I hadn't been there? As I was dealing with all this, I realized that the time for my meeting was quickly approaching. Despite the delay, I needed to start heading back or I'd miss my plan. Leaving the rest to the paramedics, I mounted my bike, but the man called out to me. "Wait, please, let me offer you something in return." "No, it's okay, I must be going now," I replied. Saying that, I left the scene without even giving my name. After all, I had only done what any person should do. I didn't need a reward. The man, too, was riding a sports bike, so he seemed to like cycling as well. I'm sure we'll meet again on the road someday. I hope to see him healthy and cycling again. It feels good to do a good deed. Helping others always brings joy. With that warm feeling, I pedaled home. The enjoyable Sunday quickly ended, and Monday arrived. A new week began. During the weekends, I enjoy refreshing cycling, but on weekdays, I transform back into a diligent worker. My sales performance isn't poor. Actually, based on the numbers alone, it's quite good. Yet, my inability to climb the career ladder has been my recent worry. The reason I can't get promoted is quite obvious. It's because of our department's manager, David. David is a stereotypical autocratic boss, rarely seen in recent years. He favors employees who flatter him over those with good sales performance. I don't like David's approach at all. I want to advance based solely on my sales performance, not by flattering David, but he won't allow it. David seems vaguely aware that I'm dissatisfied with his methods and deliberately doesn't assign me significant tasks. He probably doesn't like that I don't flatter him. So, I've almost given up on getting promoted and just focus on achieving significant results with the tasks I'm given. If I exceed expectations, perhaps a manager from another sales department might notice me. That's the slim hope I'm clinging to. One day, as usual, I went to the office and was getting on with my work. "Hey, Emily, what's the deal with this document?" David's bellow echoed through the room. "Yes, I'm so sorry." The one being scolded was Emily, a clerical employee handling accounting and administrative tasks in our department. She apologized to David in a small voice. "What? I can hear you. I'm so sorry. I've told you to make eye contact when you speak, haven't I? I'm sorry, I'm sorry." David deliberately made Emily apologize again, even though he could hear her. "Just make sure you correct it," David yelled and threw the stack of documents he was holding at Emily. The papers fluttered in the air and scattered on the floor. Without giving it a second look, David stormed out of the floor with large strides. Emily started picking up the scattered documents alone. Thinking that David had gone too far, I stood up from my desk and rushed over to help Emily. "Are you okay? Let me help you." Together, we started picking up the documents scattered on the floor. "Thank you," she said without making eye contact with me. Emily is a general employee in charge of our department's clerical work. She has a developmental disorder and finds it extremely difficult to make eye contact with people. Moreover, she apparently suffered a large burn on her face from a house fire when she was young. This injury, along with her condition, made it even harder for her to face people. Some people, like me, accept her disability as it is, while others, like David, do not tolerate it. In such a toxic work environment, one might think she should just quit, but this company was a place where Emily, with her developmental disorder, finally managed to find employment. Finding another job is not guaranteed, so quitting isn't a simple option for her. Even though she has a developmental disorder, Emily is competent at her job. She occasionally makes mistakes, but when she's focused, her work output is incredible compared to others. Even I have been helped by her many times. David must know that she is a capable worker. Yet, he discriminates against her because of her developmental disorder, subtly bullying her in hopes she'll quit. "If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. I'll do what I can to assist," I offered. "Thank you, but if you pay attention to me, even you might get bullied by David," she cautioned. This was the reason why other employees, despite noticing her mistreatment, didn't help her. Defending Emily, who was targeted by David, could jeopardize their own career advancement. David already promotes employees who flatter him. If I were seen defending Emily, it could completely ruin my chances for promotion by upsetting David. "It's okay. I have no interest in sucking up to David for a promotion," I assured her. "Is that so?" Emily seemed relieved by my response. She still didn't meet my eyes, but her voice softened a bit, conveying her emotions. I was content just being able to communicate with her in this way. A few days later, another incident occurred. "Emily, what's this? The numbers are wrong." David's angry voice echoed from the early morning. Again, I sighed in frustration. "These numbers here. This is an important document. How are you going to fix this?" "I'm sorry, but these numbers were based on the instructions you sent via email. Are you defying me? That's some nerve you have." From what I overheard, it seemed Emily had prepared the document with numbers David had mistakenly instructed her to use, and it was sent to a client. Clearly, it was David's mistake, but he was blaming Emily and shouting at her. This was beyond unreasonable. I don't care if you have a developmental disorder or what, but you should be grateful for being employed. Don't defy me. Yes, I'm sorry. Besides, you're a woman. Why don't you dress more femininely? Put on some makeup to cover that ugly face. You look like a monster. David's words froze the air around us. This was too much. A woman's appearance has nothing to do with her work. Furious, I found myself in front of David, slamming my hands down on the desk loudly. Enough already. From what I've heard, the mistake in this document was due to your incorrect instructions, wasn't it? Moreover, a person's work has nothing to do with their appearance. Why do you find joy in saying things that hurt women? I couldn't stand David bullying Emily, heartlessly exploiting her vulnerabilities for his amusement. I wanted to make him realize he was doing something utterly despicable as a person. But my words didn't reach him. Instead, David turned his anger towards me. Michael, who do you think you are, talking to me like that, defying me? I'm not defying you. I'm just stating what any decent person should, I retorted. David became furious, and sensing that things were going seriously awry, the other employees, who had been silent until now, started to buzz with activity. Michael, stop it. This is bad. Don't push it too far. It's dangerous. Apologize already. Whispers of caution reached me, but I didn't back down. Once my anger boiled over, it wasn't easy to calm down. Apologize to Emily, I demanded. David glared at me, clearly displeased with my attitude. You've got some nerve. If you dislike working under me so much, go work under someone else. I don't need someone who defies me in this department. I never wanted to work under you in the first place. Go ahead, transfer me if you can. Our exchange had turned into a heated argument. In my anger, I had spoken to my superior in a way I shouldn't have, but I had no regrets. The argument ended when David banged the desk and stormed off. Emily looked at me worriedly, so I reassured her with a smile and went back to work. The next day, the official notice came. True to David's words, I was transferred out of the sales department to another division. I ended up in a subsidiary's document sorting department. It was a small department with just a few part-time older ladies. Of course, there was no other young employee like me. The transfer clearly steered me away from any path to promotion, an evident show of David's malice. It seemed they had no intention of letting me work in sales anymore. I decided to be thankful that at least I wasn't fired. While working modestly here, I thought maybe I should start looking for another job. Now that I've been removed from my sales position, there's no meaning for me to stay at this company. I felt defeated by that power-harassing manager, but there was nothing I could do. A few days after I started working like a robot, I noticed something different when I came to work. The part-time ladies seemed unusually restless. What's going on? I asked. Today, the new president is coming to visit our department as part of his greeting rounds. That's right. No one of his stature has ever come to visit us before, so everyone's quite excited. I remembered an email about an internal appointment of the new president. Indeed, I had only been vaguely aware of it. It was rare for someone important from the company to visit this often neglected department, and the ladies were eager to show off their diligent work. The atmosphere was different today. A president visiting us personally seemed like a very conscientious person. But for me, no matter how hard I worked, I knew I wouldn't return to sales. I couldn't bring myself to be as enthusiastic as the ladies, so I continued my work as usual. Then, the time came, and the new president arrived for his visit. Excuse me, I'm the new president, Alexander. Everyone stopped their work and stood up, applauding to welcome President Alexander. The new President Alexander was a well-dressed man in his 50s. Despite his age, he had a fit physique and a graceful posture. He might be involved in some kind of sport. If you have any trouble, please don't hesitate to contact me. I aim to create a workplace where everyone can work happily, he said. There was something familiar about President Alexander's face. Have I met him before? I couldn't immediately recall, but as I looked at him, trying to remember, our eyes suddenly met. Ah, you're the guy from that time. President Alexander, recognizing me, approached with a sparkle in his eyes. I've been wanting to thank you. I've been looking for you since you helped me on that hill. I never imagined we worked at the same company. It all came back to me then. He was the man I had helped while cycling. No, I just did what anyone would do. I'm glad to see her well, I responded. I really owe you one. If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened. I'm truly grateful," he expressed. President Alexander extended his hand for a handshake, and I reciprocated naturally. He was a person of good manners, treating even a subordinate like me with respect. So different from a certain power-harassing manager. I wish I could work under someone like him, I thought. "By the way, Michael, I have a question for you." "Yes, what is it?" "This department is generally not meant for young employees. It's supposed to be for part-time and short-time staff. So, why are you here? In this department full of part-time ladies, my presence as a young employee was clearly out of place." President Alexander seemed to have noticed it right away. I felt a bit reluctant, as if I were betraying David, but there was no use hiding it. I honestly explained to President Alexander the circumstances leading up to my transfer here. About the female employee, Emily. How David was bullying her, trying to make her quit. And how defending Emily led to my transfer to this department. I told him everything, sparing no details. President Alexander listened to my entire story without interrupting. "I see. So that's what happened. I'm sorry. Can I borrow your phone for a moment?" After listening to my story, President Alexander picked up the receiver from the internal phone on my desk and made a call. "It's me. Bring David here." Soon after, David appeared. "David, I heard you decided on Michael's transfer. This department isn't supposed to have full-time employees. Can I hear the reason for the transfer?" Confronted by President Alexander, David was sweating profusely. "Well, that is. I want to hear the reason for the transfer. Please explain." Unable to justify his self-centered reasoning to President Alexander, David just opened and closed his mouth like a fish, unable to say a word. His pathetic sight made the part-time ladies giggle. Impatient with David's silence, President Alexander let out a heavy sigh. "I've heard enough to guess the reasons. If what you're implying is true, it's a serious issue. I'll have an investigation conducted in your department. I'll also speak to your subordinates for fact verification." "Understood." "Yes." Following this, all of David's misdeeds came to light, and he received a demotion. Naturally, he couldn't stay in the same department. He was apparently transferred to a regional department. Of course, my unjust transfer was revoked. I was able to return to my original sales department. The sales department without David seemed livelier somehow. Michael. The first to approach me upon my return was Emily. "I'm sorry my situation caused your transfer." "No, it's not your fault, Emily. I chose to stand up to David, so don't worry about it." Emily thanked a lot to me. I never thought it was her fault. "And I heard about you from President Alexander." "From President Alexander?" "Yes. Thank you very much for everything." As she raised her head, our eyes met for the first time. Emily, who had difficulty making eye contact, was looking directly at me. "President Alexander spoke very highly of you. He said you're a sincere and righteous person. I also heard about your help during the cycling incident." "Ah, that's just. I did what anyone would do." I felt a bit embarrassed being praised face to face, but I was happy she was looking me in the eye. "Actually, I also like cycling." "Is that so?" Turns out she enjoyed cycling too. Cycling, as it turns out, is appealing because the faster you pedal, the faster you go, allowing you to immerse yourself in the simple act of pedaling. It's a form of enjoyment that suits Emily's incredible concentration. When I mentioned this to President Alexander, he invited us to go cycling together. "Michael, would you like to join us for a ride on our next day off?" The idea of cycling together with President Alexander and Emily sounded enjoyable. There was no reason to decline. At work, with the dictatorial manager gone, I started receiving fair evaluations. As a result, my salary increased, and I even got a promotion. In my personal life, I made new cycling friends, making my weekend delightful. My ordinary life suddenly became vibrant and colorful. I was sometimes ridiculed for being too serious, but I'm glad I stayed true to what I believed was right. Thanks to that, I'm now enjoying both my work and personal life immensely, living a fulfilling life every day.